It all started in a small community called Azwama, where the daily activities of the people of Azwama was peaceful as they lived happily as one. But there were certain powerful men like Bossman, who was loved by everyone in the community, and Jaguar, who was detested by everyone because of his countless number of terrorism in the community. Jaguar and his men stay at the other side of the river, where most men in the community of Azwama somehow find themselves at his mercy as debtors. Jaguar's penalty to meet up with the deadline is death, and Boro found himself in such a predicament as he owed Jaguar the sum of 1.6 million naira. Boro seems to be one of the luckiest men, as Jaguar was willing to forgive him and let go of the debt on the condition that he joins his gangsters members for the war that is to come. Boro wouldn't accept such a ludicrous offer and was given 2 weeks to pay his debt, or he pays with his head on the spike. But what makes Boro different from other men? Like they say, a lion doesn't give birth to a goat. Boro's son, Elijah, seems to be as hot-headed as his father, but he was also different from other children as he tries his best to escalate the illicit behaviors of other children who were becoming a nuisance to the society. And with the backing of Lydia and Denzel, who work for Bossman in the community, his safety was guaranteed. They were walking the street when they saw another body dumped by Jaguar and his men. Lydia was getting tired of Jaguar's evil deeds, and Bossman has to take action, or else every man in Azwama would be dead one day. But as a leader, he was careful about his approach about retaliating to avoid falling into his enemy's trap, while he also confided in Elijah for advice. It also wasn't easy for the smart kid as he walked home to meet his precious mother, Boma. Boma is popularly known for her roasted plantain business in the community, and this wonder kid literally supports his mother's business from every little penny he gets from his hustle, since his father couldn't pay his school fees. This has been the survival mode of the family, as Boma makes sure that her family were well fed from her little business. And since Elijah couldn't go back to school, she made sure that he did some extra lessons at home to keep updated with school activities pending when he resumes back. Meanwhile, Boro lived an irresponsible lifestyle, as everyone in the community knows him as a debtor, especially with his gambling habits. The guys behind him were making mockery of him, and he wouldn't give a listening ear, but what he wouldn't accept is when his family is involved in such malicious gossip. He warned them, but they wouldn't listen until he gave them the beating of their lives and left. But could what people say about him be true? Boro's irresponsibility took a toll on him to the extent of assaulting his wife and son, especially when he was drunk. And for this singular act, Elijah grew so much hatred for his father to the point of wishing him dead. Poor Elijah walked in the rain that night to see Bossman, who happened to be his father's best friend. All he wants from Bossman is to kill Boro. Bossman tried to calm the lad down so that he doesn't do something that he will regret later. He assured him that he was going to talk to his father the next day. Sometimes the poor boy goes to his father's shop to work, and other times he goes out to hustle for his little penny because he knows he wouldn't get a kobo in his father's workshop, but rather be beaten mercilessly. Papa Awele was his savior this time, as he also came to ask for the money Boro owed him for over 3 months. They were still talking when Bossman came in. The boy already knew what Bossman came for, and eager to see his father listen to his friend. But everything seems to end in squabbles, as the little boy felt dispirited and in regret for having Boro as a father. The problem was getting enormous as Boma is pregnant. She is worried because she knew that her husband wouldn't accept it. The memories of how she was thrown out of her father's house for getting pregnant for Boro as a teenager. That evening, Boro came in to find the test kit while she was fast asleep. Boma woke her to hear from her. He already made up his mind that she was going to abort the child because he already has much burden on him. Elijah was behind the door eavesdropping and was happy that he was going to have a kid brother. While the dispute continued with his parents, Boma tried to calm her husband and assured him that everything will be fine. Only if she knew what Boro was passing through. He went to his special joint to clear his head as everything was beginning to crumble. The thoughts of his conversation with Bossman kept rolling in his head about how he had become so brutal overnight. Boro wouldn't forget the day he took a bullet for his friend in a fierce battle with their rival that almost took away his life. Now is the time to stand up for a change. Elijah also left the house the same evening to meet with Bossman. This time, he had made up his mind to kill Boro. Bossman wouldn't kill a man he calls brother. Boro had saved his life on many occasions. He gave the Wonder Kid a condition of 200,000 naira, and his demands will be granted. Elijah was willing to raise such a huge amount to kill a man who wants to kill his mother and younger brother. The contest to kill Boro has just begun, as the aggravated lad did everything to make money. He understands how hard-working he must be to get a lump sum of money just to kill his father. Meanwhile, the man who was to be killed was already seeking reconciliation with his family. He also needed to pay his debts to be free as a man, and the only property he had was an old car. But the buyer wasn't making enough sense in the deal. While Boro was thinking of how to make life reasonable again, his son was already planning his death. It's funny how life can be at times. Elijah also had to do domestic jobs for the neighborhood. Mama Fanta was a popular woman in the community with her granddaughter, Ora Bere, who had always missed him and always wished he returned back to school, but school is not his priority now, as all he could think of is money to kill his father. Ora Bere was so fond of Elijah that she always wanted him around to play with. But he had many important things occupied in his mind at the moment. Boro kept impressing his wife to prove to her that he is a changed man now, no late nights and hanging out at the bar any longer. This is every woman's dream, especially when she loses the man that she once loved. They were walking home together when they bumped into Jaguar's boys. Gentle, who happens to be Jaguar's right-hand man, had always had his eye on Boro as a threat to his position if Boro decides to join Jaguar's gang. Boma was shocked to hear that her husband lent money from Jaguar. Only if Gentle could have his way, he would have killed Boro. Boma wasn't happy with what her eyes witnessed. It even got worse when she heard about how heavy the debt was. Boro promised to not only pay the debt, but change and become a better man. He also wanted her to keep the baby if that would make her happy. Boro had few options left in fulfilling his promises to his lovely wife, so he decided to ask Bossman for a loan. Bossman wouldn't give him this time around because Boro has never repaid any of his debt. This could serve as a lesson to anyone that we shouldn't take people for granted because we wouldn't find them around when things get serious. Boro finally had to sell his car for a penny to make things right once again, but the money wasn't even close to the amount of money that he owed Jaguar. While Elijah was also saving up to meet up to the demands of Bossman. Boro took his family unaware as he prepared a special meal for Boma and Elijah, and also served the meal while they sat and watched. They were about to eat when light was restored. Boma could see signs of good things coming, but Elijah felt that it was a trap. Elijah kept provoking his father since he wasn't convinced with Boro's overnight attitude. Boma did everything possible to calm his nerves. Elijah wanted to talk to someone. He felt that he was running out of time. He asks Lydia if she had killed someone before. Lydia wouldn't forget the day that she killed a police officer who wanted to rape a 6-year-old girl. Ever since that day she killed the police officer, she had become as brutal as a viper. She also wanted to let him know that if he killed Boro, his life wouldn't remain the same again. This he will regret for the rest of his life. Elijah still didn't care. He still held his head up high to the task ahead. He had a domestic job doing when Orabere saw him. She wanted to know why he just worked so hard, and after so much persistence from her, Elijah had to tell her what he was about to do. The little girl knows Elijah so well that he will do anything whenever he is serious about it, but she already swore not to tell anyone. Boma was already convinced that her husband was a changed man. They were already celebrating the moment when Elijah walked in anger. Boro wanted to go talk some sense into him, but Boma knows that it will get worse. She knows that she can convince the boy more. Boma had to go talk to her son. and after much sweet parental words and advice, the boy still was a hard nut to crack. His mind was already made up. He went to meet Bossman with the little 34,000 naira he had gathered so far to kill Boro. Bossman knew that it would be difficult for the boy to raise such an amount and eventually give up. He wasn't going to change his mind on the agreed deal. Elijah had to leave frustrated. Boma and Boro were already gathering every money that could get to pay up the debt he owes Jaguar. Boro wanted to know where Boma got the money from when Elijah came in and heard them talking. He saw his father hide the money, so is he going to steal the money? Boro loves his son so much. Only if the little boy can see the heart of his father, so what better way can a father win back the trust of his family that he once lost? He will do anything and everything this time, and favor once again shined on the face of Boro and his lovely family. The wristwatch his father gave him before he died was worth a fortune without him knowing. The White was willing to offer him 7.5 million naira if he was willing to sell. Boro wouldn't reject such a mouth-watering offer, but who knows the real worth of the gold? What's most important now is that they are free from threats. What a joy to behold. The next morning while having breakfast, Boro and Boma can't just stop talking about their plans for the money while Elijah keeps listening. Elijah already had his plans with the money to fulfill the demands of Bossman, and after they had left, he went for the money. He was going straight to Bossman when Orabere saw him. She was the only person he told his every move. She thinks it's a bad idea, but Elijah wouldn't listen to anyone. She has to find a way to stop him. She went straight to meet Boma to tell her what was about to happen. Elijah was already with Bossman at that moment, only if the kid knew that the money he was carrying was way more than the money he wanted. Boma rushed in with Orabere to find out for herself. She then found out that Elijah took the money that Boro needed to pay back the loan without knowing that he took an empty bag. Boro will be a dead man when Jaguar finds out that he has been outsmarted. Bossman needs to act fast now, or the body of Boro will be found at the riverbank soon. Little Elijah had just returned to his senses. He took the money and ran away. But where could he be heading to? Boro, on the flip side, was already at the mercy of Jaguar when they found out that the bag was as good as empty. The little boy was on the sail to go save his father. What temerity has this kid got? Bossman and his boys also wouldn't sit back and watch Boro and his family go down. This is also the opportunity Jaguar has been looking for. It's either Boro joins them now or goes down as a fallen hero. They got to the riverbank and were ready for battle. Boma had to tell Mama Fanta what was going on, as she and some others wouldn't mind joining them to put an end to Jaguar and his evil deeds. Boro would rather die than to join Jaguar. Jaguar already had a gun on him when the boy came in with the money. Boro knew he was going to die, so the money wouldn't be necessary, but the child had to confess that it was all his fault. Jaguar was surprised to hear that even Boro's son wants him dead. This time, Boro was defenseless, as he wouldn't want him and his son dead. Bossman and his boys immediately invade Jaguar's territory. He goes nowhere without Boro and his family. Jaguar saw that the odds were now against him, but he wouldn't let that happen in his territory. He then pulled the trigger, but unfortunately, the bullet hit on the little boy. Bossman had no choice than to fire back, and the great Jaguar met his end. What hope lies for Boro and his family? Did Elijah die, or did he survive? Check out the movie on Kill Boro. Thanks for watching. Please comment your thoughts, and also like and share this video for more super amazing videos that we are bringing to you. And if you're watching from our YouTube channel, you can also subscribe and turn on your notification for more. Thank you.